go.
Is it recording? Yeah, it's recording. I like this one because it's got it's got little audio bars to say if it's recording or not.
So that's spiking a lot. I wonder. These might be too much.
Well, I mean, it's a test. It's a test. I got to work out where I'm going to put the fucking thing.
I just chucked it on the arm of the chair.
I'm going to wear it. It's got a clip.
Yeah.
See, I'm a fucking pro. Watch this be the worst recording I've ever had because it's picking up all the rustling. Rustle. Can you hear me? No. Yeah, every time I move, it's going to pick up some shit.
The coffee is like...
Actually, yeah, that's going to be stupid. I'm going to take that on. Stay there. Stay on the thing. Yeah. Come on. Fuck you. Do that. Yeah. Genius.
This is radio. Holy shit. It's like 10 minutes of faffing around.
Yeah, and it picked up all of it. So, problem is, this is a two-directional. This is a stereo recording thing. So one of the mics is now pointed at the arm of the chair.
Oh, that's all right. Well, we've got one over here, so it's going to be.
Well, that's the microphone we used to rely on.
Is it?
The one that did all the really good recordings in the early days. The crappy piece of thing. This is.
You make it sound like we've been at this for years.
Well, we actually probably have.
Yeah, I know, but
we've only put up like 4.
It doesn't feel like when they never post anything and no one listens. Kind of feels a bit like pointless.
We have 8 viewers.
8? Really?
Probably more than that.
That's nearly double figures.
Fuck, this is hot.
Yeah, I just did that. It is really hot. You
like a cup of hot
as well. It's like fucking molten lead. I'm like, I think that's really hot.
What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about something.
I said we were going to talk about Batman.
Batman's awesome.
He is. Done.
Well, that's that sort of thing, isn't it? Batman wasn't my first superhero, though.
Was he not?
No, it was Superman. The Christopher Reeve movies.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand how Superman could fly. I always thought it was something to do with his cape.
Yeah, true. That's kind of true.
I used to think that he could fly
really
because he had...
up on it. I remember them putting it on for us in school and watching it. And being really freaked out by the bit where he nearly drowns in that swimming pool. You know, where they put the kryptonite medallion thing around his neck and the swimming pool.
That bit wasn't what freaked me out. I think it was Superman 2 where the lady gets turned into...
Superman 3.
Is that Superman 3?
With the robot woman.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Superman
You're not
3,
alone with that. So many people keep going, oh man, it was one of the scariest things I remember from when I was a kid.
That scared the shit out of me as a kid. The thought of being encased in something... I didn't see it until a couple of years ago, so... Well, and the effects now look really ropey, because I went back and watched it on YouTube, that bit, and the effects are really dodgy. But... Yeah,
but then it's like that whole Doctor Who thing, where the crap effects kind of made it worse.
And it's more the idea behind it.
Yeah.
You looked at the idea behind it rather than the presentation.
Yeah, true.
And the thought of being encased in something, well, being dragged into the machine to start with, and then being encased in something that you didn't want to be encased in.
I don't know.
It's like the end of, was it Black Hole, where the guy's inside the robot?
Oh, Jesus. I picked that up on DVD.
What, Black Hole?
Yeah, to watch for Halloween. Because Helen had not seen it.
Did it scare you?
And I was like, we need to watch this. It's one of the scariest movies ever made.
I don't think
it's a PG, and it's made by Disney.
and it ends in hell.
Yeah, basically ends in hell. But right from the opening scene, it's darkly depressing. You've got this horrendously creepy John Barry score all the way through it, and it's just really dark and depressing and weird and strange.
See, I don't think I've seen this.
It's more like Alien. And you're like, how is this this is how Disney saw Star Wars.
I was going to say, because it was done in the wake of Star Wars. Disney saw Star Wars and thought, yeah, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen it since the 80s, or at the very least early 90s.
Well, that was one of the things. I was like, I remember this film like vividly, and I really want to see it again. And Helen hadn't seen it, and I was like, let's pick it up on DVD and inflict it on myself. And I really like it now, because...
You could study it a little more without hiding behind the sofa.
It's still really fucked up. It really is. But But it's a hell of a watch. It's fantastic.
I'll have to track it
down. And that
there.
spaceship is mind-melting. The thing that the evil guy's on. The Cygnus or whatever.
Well, the one that's sort of hanging at the edge of the black hole.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 miles long, and it's just... Do you know what? Helen pinpointed it, actually. She said, this is basically just Event Horizon. And I went, actually, yeah, it is. It's like proto-Event Horizon.
Event Horizon if it's done by Disney.
Yeah, pretty much.
Disney's
it's
Event
really
Horizon.
Disturbing. Which was one of the only films that scared me in broad daylight. Was
actually,
Event Horizon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember renting it when it came. When it came to video, it's so long ago it was.
I can't actually remember when I first saw it.
I remember watching it on the couch at about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, in broad daylight, and just going, Jesus Christ, this is really freaky. That was a great film. I love that film.
I'm thinking I might have seen Event Horizon for the first time. I was probably still living at home, and I think Sky were doing one of those weekends where they had the movie channels for free to try and dupe you into paying for them.
Oh, right.
And we did nothing but sit and watch movies.
Just mainline films.
Well, we had the VHS running non-stop.
Yeah.
So we were basically recording everything. And I think Event Horizon was among one of those. And I think that was the first time I saw it. But it was one of those films which I saw when it was being played on the telly. I didn't go out and rent it. And it was one of those films which sort of crept up on me. I read the blurb in the TV guide and thought, yeah, I'll give this a shot. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Isn't it the same guy that did The Mummy? Is it him? Or is it the other guy? I always get muddled up. No, it's the guy who did AVP, isn't it?
Might have been.
Yeah, because he did AVP and Event Horizon.
The guy that did The Mummy did stuff like Deep Rising.
He did Deep Rising, yeah, but I couldn't remember if it's the same guy.
No, it doesn't feel like his tone. There wasn't enough humour in it.
Yeah. But then Event Horizon, that's an odd film. Like, when you look at it back, it's got this weird sort of dance music as an opening.
Oh, yeah. It's sort of techno stuff, isn't it?
It doesn't sit with the film at all.
But it goes on for like 10 minutes. It doesn't have nothing. It doesn't have anything except...
It sets you up for a completely different movie. You think, I'm going to watch The Matrix or something. And then suddenly it's like, oh my God, people are pulling their eyes out and eating their own intestines.
Once you get past the crappy credits and then it starts into the actual blurb where it starts telling you about the history... of stuff. Apparently in 2015 we're supposed to have people on Mars at this point.
They better get on with it.
But I think it has a really nice opening. Because it sort of starts...
it's a good film. It's really... It doesn't feel like a safe movie from the opening. Do you know what I mean? Everything feels a little bit...
off.
Yeah.
But I like it because it's one of the few films I've seen which does supernatural and high science fiction together.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. I like the way they treat the technology in it as well.
There's a reason for everything existing.
It feels real and it feels flimsy. Everything feels like it could break and that you're always on the edge of this. There's like you and a sheet of glass and then nothing,
But also they give a reason for everything being sort of spiky and nasty, especially around the core of the ship.
But I really like the rescue ship that goes out. It really has that alien feel.
The sort of lifeboat.
Everything's really sort of, the chairs are held together with sticky tape and all this stuff. And I remember at the time watching it and going, oh man, if they make another Alien film, this guy should totally direct one. And then he did AVP and it's just like, but why? You made an amazing Alien movie. It would have been incredible. What happened? How did you do AVP?
What? I've got a question. Why does Lawrence Fishburne always end up in a chair hanging from a ceiling? Because
I need more examples. I can't think of any.
Well, he's hanging from a ceiling in Event Horizon, and then later on, when he appears in The Matrix, he's hanging from another fucking ceiling chair.
I don't know, maybe it's like a fetish thing. It's got to be in his contract. At some point, I've got to be upside down in the chair. Everyone's like, Lawrence, why? It's just my thing. Sean Bean's got to die and everything. This is my thing.
Oh, what's his name? Waterworld guy?
Kevin Costner.
Yeah. It's like him with horses. He has to be on a horse in every single film.
Oh, they struggled with that with Waterworld.
I don't know why I jumped to Waterworld first. There wasn't
the one thing. I just picked the one film where there's like no horses. Good one.
I bet in the background somewhere you can see a dinghy with a horse in it.
It's like a really, really big seahorse that he just like, and they just went, "No, we're cutting that out. It's ridiculous. We're not having that in it."
That's freaky. Why is that the first Kevin Costner film I went to? I should have gone to
Maybe because it was the last one he was ever in. He never made a film after that. No, he didn't.
You didn't like The Postman?
I haven't actually seen The Postman.
You haven't seen it?
No, I've never seen The Postman.
It's quite a good post-apocalyptic.
It's actually good.
I like it. It's quite a good post-apocalyptic film.
Yeah, there aren't many.
I mean, loads of people slated it, but I really quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's probably why it never crossed my desktop.
I quite enjoyed him in it as well. I mean, he was a likable jerk in it.
Yeah, he does that well, doesn't he? Right, so Superman was your first superhero movie.
Yeah, and which like
Superman was probably mine actually.
Well, it was the first superhero film out there, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it's got to be in it. I mean, they'd done Superman and Batman and stuff.
Yeah, there'd been the Batman '66 movie.
Yeah, but there were the serials before that in like the cinema and stuff.
But that was the first big thing. Like, you will believe a man can fly.
Yeah, totally.
And like I say, it was confusing because I thought the cape allowed him to fly, and then I was introduced to Batman, and I thought because he had a cape, he could fly.
Yeah, I never. It didn't rock my world. I didn't really care.
But I was aware of Batman when it came out in '89, but I don't think
it slipped by me.
I don't think I saw it until it aired on the BBC in the early '90s.
I remember being fascinated by the idea of Batman because I heard of it. And
I'd probably seen the '60s version.
My uncle used to reference it because his name was Robin, so he used to reference it for stuff. And I was just like, but I never really encountered it. And I had this idea in my head of like a guy dressed like a bat. That's so weird. But because of where I lived and stuff, I had no access to like comics and things. So I didn't see it for years, anything to do with Batman. And then someone got me Batman Returns on video. Must have been when it came out for Christmas, and I remember watching it, and that changed my world. Like,
that was your first Batman introduction?
Yeah, Batman, but as a movie as well, that totally changed everything for me. Because I'd seen films and stuff up to that point, obviously, like Star Wars, all that stuff, and I'd loved them, but I never thought I wanted to do that. Like, I watched Batman and went, oh my god, I want to do that.
Well, both of the Tim Burton Batman films are incredibly visual pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pick as many holes in the stories as you want,
completely.
but they are undeniably visual.
But Batman Returns is genius.
Yeah.
It's like the pure visualization of what he wanted to do. It's like the first Batman is good, but he's held him back because it's like his first, second proper big movie, and there's a lot hanging on it. But they obviously went, you made shitloads of money and we did really well with the first one. Do we like the second one? And it's a black and white movie in colour. Incredible. It's like, this is amazing. It's an amazing film.
I mean, I just think of Batman Returns, and I just think darkness and snow.
Yeah,
and it's just a wonderful. It's a wonderful combination.
Yeah,
Batman
Helen
in the
used
snow.
to equates it to like that Gotham's just in its own little snow globe.
Yeah,
it's in this little world just in prison.
Well, I mean that description harks back to the original introduction to the Gotham City at the very start of Batman.
Yeah.
Where you just see that skyline.
Yeah.
And you just think, yeah, that could be in a bubble.
Yeah, totally.
It basically is in a bubble.
It's
a little time
its
warp.
own little world, yeah. So it's so odd, his take on it all. And it's like when you see those streets in the 89 Batman, like, you know, you've got these sort of people dressed like it's the 1920s walking alongside these sort of 80s punks and everything, and it's this really weird mash.
It is a proper timeless thing.
Yeah.
It's not like any particular time zone.
It's genius when you think about it, because, like you say, it just makes Gotham its own little world to itself that doesn't. It's not now, and it's not then. It's is.
I think both of us always think of the definitive version of Batman as Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
that's like the best version, and that's sort of locked in this 1940s, 1950s era.
Yeah, it felt to me like those things were around at the same sort of time. I remember watching Batman Returns, and then not long, if around the same time, the animated series came on.
Well, I think the animated series came in the wake of Well, no, it must have been in the wake of Batman Returns, because when the Penguin was introduced...
Because that's why it really had that,
him.
and he looked the same way with the hands and everything, and it was all that 1920s kind of look to everything, which was really heavy in Batman Returns. And it was, obviously took inspiration from the Danny Elfman score and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like... And then I remember that those were the things that I was just like, yeah, Batman's amazing, and I just loved Batman so much. Everything about it in this weird, twisted world that it was. And I always liked sort of broken heroes and heroes that are human and mortal and fail and do stuff wrong. Because heroes, what they tried to get across in Batman Superman is the idea that you can't be a hero if you're not afraid. Because to be a hero is to be afraid of something and face death and do it anyway. Because that's the difference, is you're the person who stands up.
Well, that's the Stan Lee description of
it. But that's the whole idea of it.
That a hero is supposed to will run towards the danger.
Because no matter what, and because Superman can't be afraid, because he can't fail, he doesn't face that. And the minute he does in Batman Superman, he falls. He makes the wrong choice. Like Lex Luthor holds up the thing to him and just goes, look, we're going to kill your mum. And he goes, right, I'm yours, I'll do whatever you want. It's like, yeah, you're not a hero. You're not that yet. He hasn't become the Superman that we know. And that's what Batman's saying to him when he beats the shit out of him on that rooftop. It's like, you've never faced fear, you've never been afraid.
Because you liked the Batman vs. Superman film, didn't you?
I do, actually. I do. I will say that I do actually like it. It's massively flawed and there's loads of shit wrong with it. But I think it was a brilliant film, and I think it was... The thing that I find fascinating about it is Marvel make movies of their comics. DC made a comic book that happened to be a film. It felt more like I was reading a graphic novel than I was watching a movie. I felt like we came out of the cinema afterwards and sat down and talked about it, I felt like I just read like a 1-inch thick monster graphic novel. It just felt like that. And I know... and everyone comes to the thing where it's like, oh, what, the Martha thing? And that was how they, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, but that's comic book logic. If that had been in a comic book, everyone would have gone, that's fucking genius. Because it makes sense on a comic book page, and it was written and it felt like a comic book, and it was great.
I'd have to argue the point. I mean, the reason they...
Yeah, go for it.
The reason, for example... The reason, for example, The Dark Knight Returns works and is held up as a masterpiece of sequential storytelling is because it has the weight of all that's come before it behind it. Yeah. If you dropped it into it, you'd have something which stands kind of similar to The Watchmen, because The Watchmen didn't exist before and doesn't really exist after the Watchmen graphic novel.
Yeah,
I didn't like the Watchmen graphic novel. I thought it was a little too pretentious and went on a little too long, and I just didn't enjoy it.
Controversial.
I know. As far as I'm concerned, Alan Moore's only good.
Can I say I agree, and I actually prefer the film?
Yeah, I did enjoy the film. We just
lost any audience we had. They were just going, you're idiots. We're going...
I'll agree that the film of The Watchmen has a terrible ending because it doesn't make any sense.
It's still better than the one in the book.
We're going off tangent. The point is, the failing of Batman vs. Superman was the fact that nothing had come before it. It was expecting you to be invested in the characters and the ultimate spoiler, death of Superman. And that doesn't have meaning unless it's got a build-up to it. Yeah. Yes, we know who Batman is, we know who Superman is, but we know that at this point because of the movies and stuff which has come before it, but those don't tie into that story that's being told there.
Can I say something? I think, and this is where I think that people are going wrong with it, and I think you kind of touched on it there. You're saying there is no build-up. That's true. This is the build-up.
But he's dead! Superman dies. Yeah, I know he's not. I know he's not dead. But
listen to me now a second, because there's loads of stuff in this film that people miss. The flashback, the flashback. When Flash comes out of a little warp and says,
for no apparent reason, I'm too early.
Right. Yeah. Okay. If you watch that film, there's loads of references to 89. I think it's 89.
Are there?
To check me on that. Yeah. Cyborg, when they look at the file and see when Cyborg was being created, the cube that they used to make him landed in like 89.
Uh-huh.
Batman's parents were like killed in 89. I need to check because I need to watch it again and look, but I think Superman potentially landed in 89. Now, the things that are really interesting about that is all this stuff happened in the same year. What the fuck? I think that we're actually in an alternate universe. This is why Superman's different. His origins and things are slightly different. The treatment of Batman is slightly different. And it's why you're getting things like the weird Flash stuff. Because Flash is trying to fix it. They're doing something like the Flashpoint paradox.
They're just not telling you about it.
Yeah, they're not telling you yet. And this is why they're sticking to their guns with it. Because they're going to pull something awesome out of the hat and everyone's going to go, fuck. And they're going to turn around and go, yeah, because like before any of this happened, someone dicked with the timeline.
Okay, right.
They're trying to set it straight.
If they do that, I'll certainly add those movies to my collection because they're not in amongst it at the moment.
I genuinely think that's what's happening. Well, I honestly think there's loads of little things through it, and everyone's going, oh, the origin stories are different, and they're not yet, and it's like because they're not those people yet. And they're like, Superman's wrong, Superman isn't how he's supposed to be, and it's like, yeah, because he's not Superman yet. They haven't done all the stuff that makes him Superman because it's a different universe. I
mean, that would be a genius way of correcting any perceived mistakes. But that's not a way. Because, I mean, after watching Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad, I'm really not in any hurry to go and watch the Justice League movie. Even another Batman solo thing, I might not actually go and watch that at the cinema.
That's interesting, because, like...
I'm going to give Wonder Woman a shot.
But he's hands down the best thing in that film. Like, Ben Affleck's Batman is amazing.
I mean, I like the design.
But he's like the closest version to a comic book Batman that we've ever had.
Yeah.
As much as I love, like, the 89 films and all those stuff, I love that.
Well, that's Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah, it's a movie Batman. Yeah. But if you were going to take Batman straight off a page and put him on screen, it's that version of him. He's so close to what
the thing is. The dude that played Thomas Wayne in the flashback.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting his name.
That's another reason that... sorry to cut in. That's another reason that I think they're going to do what they're going to do. Because he could play the Thomas Wayne Batman from the Flashpoint stuff. I've always said that and he's always done those action scenes.
I've always said that he would have made a better Batman.
Yeah, he's gonna be the Thomas Wayne Batman. When they pull the rug out and they reveal that it's Flashpoint, he's gonna be that version because he can be.
I mean, when they said they were going to do a sort of a version of The Dark Knight Returns, I immediately thought of that guy and thought he would make a perfect older Batman.
Yeah.
And I mustn't have been the only person to voice that because they wouldn't have put him in the film otherwise.
Yeah. But that's honestly what I think is canon. It would not surprise me at all that they'd have the guts to do it as well.
But, I mean, there's loads of bits and pieces that people are highlighting and pointing out and saying that
especially when you factor in, like, Darkseid and the fact that he's coming in. You know, he has all the technology and the ability to do that stuff, to mess with the timeline and all those kind of things. And it's highly possible.
I mean, they could have rectified... they will be able to rectify so much stuff if they do say it's an alternate time. Because, I mean, DC is all about that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
How many different versions of Earth are there in the DC universe?
Exactly. They love doing it. And as soon as you got the Flash in it, you know you're in. Because that's what his whole universe is about. Weird time travel and alternate reality.
But it does seem a very messy, clumsy way of doing it. I mean, yeah, you can correct stuff later on, but like I say, because of its failing so far, I'm not in any rush to go and see later things, except maybe perhaps Wonder Woman, because that looks like it's going to give us something completely different.
Yeah, sure.
And you were talking about Marvel essentially making versions of its comics. I don't think that's the case. I think what Marvel have done is resurrected the concept of serial cinema. You know, you have people used to go to the cinema to see a new installment each time. You know, in order to appreciate
entirely what I meant. I mean, what I meant was that they're not converting their comics into films. They're using. There's different narrative concepts within like comics that that are different to cinema, and it's like they've stripped away a lot of what the comics are to make them work as films.
But they plan them.
Yeah, sure. But, yeah, and this is the thing. is that people are assuming that DC haven't, and I think that's a problem.
But
people are instantly assuming that they're Johnny-come-lately. That they haven't sat back and gone, what are we going to do that's going to actually be really different? And to be honest, I'm happy to watch something that just isn't Marvel. Even if it's a bit broken. I think the Marvel films are becoming really dull.
You want something darker.
Especially anything to do with the Avengers. Oh my god, I've seen it already. Right, let's just fucking get into this now. Because seriously, right, Batman, Superman, and Captain America Civil War,
which was
the films were about the same thing.
Yeah.
They were about what it means to actually be a hero. Batman, Superman dealt with it.
I don't think it did.
Let me finish.
Okay.
let me have my rant.
Alright, okay.
And I honestly think that Captain America Civil War did not. Because it didn't have... Batman, Superman... Batman goes up to Superman and goes, look, you've never been afraid, you've never been any of these things, you can't be a hero. They say the exact same thing to Iron Man at the end of the thing. Because, the guy turns around and goes, look, I manipulated you and this is why heroes are bad. Because, you have all this power, but you have no idea what to do with it. I've had you dancing around all over the place. And look, I'm outlining my plan to you. This is how much of a fool you are. You've fallen for every single step along the way, and now you're going to kill me. And he does. And he instead of going, no, you're wrong about me, and walking away, he carries on and does everything that the guy says. And then they have a little fight, and then he writes him a love letter at the end and says, oh, sorry about that. And it's we've learned nothing. They've changed nothing. The characters have not developed. Nobody's gone anywhere, and we're back to stage one. So we can have another... You're right. It is those serials, because nothing happens. And at the end of it, we're right back where we started.
I have to watch Civil War again. Obviously, the main thing about Civil War is what happens at the airport, and I think that's...
Yeah, but it's not. It's a fucking action sequence. Well, that's all anyone got caught up on was we're finally going to see a bunch of people in costumes
beating
hit each other.
Up.
It's I've seen it already.
That's the point that I was going to make. People are being dazzled by that. And they're obviously
missing the fact that the films aren't about anything and nothing happens. At the end of every single one, they reset.
Well, I'll need to watch it again because I'm not sure. I might be remembering it differently, but I mean, the villain in Civil War is that Zemo character.
Yeah.
And they don't kill him.
No, he ends up in the...
he tries to kill himself, and Black Panther basically stops him from dying. Stops him from shooting himself.
Yeah. No, I was being overly dramatic, but he still plays into everything. Tony Stark doesn't develop, and he doesn't learn, and he doesn't evolve as a character. He's not interesting because of that.
Yeah,
they took away the stuff that made him interesting in Iron Man 3.
What, where he had the thing taken out of his chest?
He was vulnerable. He had, the whole point of the first Iron Man film, the film that potentially started this whole thing off, is a brilliant movie because it's about a guy who has no heart, who loses his heart to find one. It's he gets his humanity by losing the thing that makes you human. And
big put the stressful situation changes his perspective and stuff.
Yeah, and the irony is he says it in the film. He's you were all willing to help me when I was handing out guns that were destroying the world, and now I want to take that away. No one wants to help me. And he's on his own, and he's a really interesting, complex character. And as the movies go on, they take that away and away and away, and he just becomes this, I'm a bit of a dick who says something.
That's weird, you see, I've never seen Tony Stark as an interesting, as that kind of deep character. I've always seen him as a guy who...
No, because he only exists like it in the first film. The second film's a train wreck, and by the third one, they've taken away anything that made him what he was.
But the only reason he acts the way he does in the first one is because he got kidnapped. He got kidnapped and had a chest full of shrapnel.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
And he's basically in shell shock for that entire thing.
Yeah, he's not done it for any altruistic reason. This is the whole Max Landis thing about why Superman is fantastic. Because Superman is great because he does it because it's the right thing to do. The reason that what makes Superman is phenomenal is he isn't some post-traumatic nightmare who lost his parents.
He's just got the Boy Scout attitude.
He didn't need his parents to be murdered in front of him to think that maybe killing people was wrong. Superman he grew up on a farm where he was taught about right and wrong, and he's a nice guy, and he can do something about it because he's a god. He has the ultimate power, and he can make humanity a better place, and that's why he's good. But it's also the reason that cinema doesn't know what to do with him. Because Superman can do everything he does without doing anything.
I've always seen Superman as more of a better supporting or mentor character than an actual character you want to follow through a narrative.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is
it's because of the Jesus analogy.
Oh, I never get it.
But it is all that stuff.
Yeah.
He is this greater, stronger thing that inspires people to be greater. I mean, the whole thing with the Justice League is Batman's at that point at the moment. This is another thing that people criticised him for. He's branding people and killing people and doing all this stuff. But it's like he's just lost Robin. And he's in the comic series, it was The Lonely Place of Dying, I think, or Death in a Family and all that kind of stuff, where Batman just went off the fucking rails. And he went to this horrendous place. And he's there when we meet him in these films. And Superman inspires him to do something else. Because in fighting him and achieving something with him by the end of the film, he realises that there's more that he can bring.
But the fans might know that.
And the JLA, that's where it'll go. You know, it's the idea that, but the thing is, Batman gets buddies, you know, and they all buddy up and they go and fight crime, you know, and it helps him through his dark shit.
But the thing is, the fans may know all of this. But I mean, I haven't read a whole heap of the Batman stuff. So even if I can profess to being a Batman fan, even I didn't know some of that stuff.
Yeah, I know.
And if that isn't presented in the film is just...
It's hinted at, but in the way that it's hinted at, in that annoying way that the Marvel films do it, where they're like, oh, if you haven't read it, you won't get this reference, and that's annoying. Because the whole, like... Oh, yeah, totally. But I mean, because they reference their TV series and all that kind of stuff, and it's like you haven't watched every single goddamn thing, you don't get some of the references, and that really pisses me off. It's like their comics. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, to understand this whole page of dialogue, you have to have read this issue of Spider-Man from 1982.
But even
oh great,
I've read less Marvel than I have DC, and I never get struck down by anything like that in Marvel movies.
Do you watch a lot of the TV shows though?
Like. What?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that kind of stuff.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is never really mentioned in... I mean, they refer to the movies in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the time, but they never refer to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series in the movies.
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Yeah. I think they do it in the second Avengers. There's definitely a scene in that.
There's a bit where...
And there's characters in it as well that are from other stuff that you're just like, who the fuck are you?
No.
Yeah.
When? There's a line that Fury says when the helicarrier reappears, and he says, "A couple of my friends helped me pull this out of mothballs." And if you watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, you know that it was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who helped that. But they don't refer to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. itself.
Circling back to what you were saying, you are right about DC doing that, and it's naughty. It's a really bad thing to do. Because, like I say, like the sort of Jason Todd, Robin gear is kind of there in the glass case with the Joker stuff painted over it.
Well,
so it's a reference to the Joker killing.
Have you heard the rumor about the Joker?
But it's not. But like you don't really get it unless you know that stuff, and it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah,
you know? It's not a good.
Have you, just as a slight side thing, have you heard the rumor about the Joker? The Joker that we've seen might not be the Joker.
Right,
it might be Jason Todd.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's pointing to the sort of J brand that's on his. Just under his eye or something. Okay. Let's say that's what Jason Todd had before the Joker killed him.
Right. Okay.
Which, if that turns out to be true, I hate that as well.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm just open to anything. I think DC are going to do some really interesting, weird stuff.
There's always the potential there, but what is there so far is a train wreck. I can't see it as anything.
Potentially, but like it could... If they do it right, we could get this like teacup exploding.
Well, yeah. If they do,
which would be lovely because you just get all these
as you say. If they do as you say, and there's something which pulls everything together, if they do pull a proper rabbit out of the hat, I'll applaud them.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
But they were stupid for going about it the way they have done.
I think I kind of enjoyed Suicide Squad, but it was a hot mess. It really is a mess of a film. There's like Oh my god, the opening scene. I remember sitting down in the cinema to watch it, and the opening 10 minutes just going, what?
I can't even remember what happened at the opening.
The first bit is literally like a montage of the bits they used from the trailer. It's like they filmed them for the trailers and then went, oh shit, we got to get these in the film. So you see like Will Smith's character just getting beaten up in a cell.
Oh, so it was the introduction of the characters.
Yeah, and then it cuts to Harley Quinn in her prison cell, and they like do horrible things to her, like electrocute her or some shit. And then it just cuts to the street where you have the little bit of music video stuff over the top of it. You Don't Own Me and all that kind of shit playing over the top of each scene. Like they've all got their own little bit of music. And then it cuts to Amanda Waller turning up at the thing, and you're just like, didn't need that. You're going to reintroduce the characters now.
Yeah, they introduced them about 5 times.
Yeah, they keep telling you.
I remember that bit.
And that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like, you don't do that. It was like Sherlock the other night. You could have cut 20 minutes out of the beginning of that show.
Which one?
And it would have been way better.
Was it the third?
Yeah, you know the final episode where they go to the prison?
Yeah.
But before that, you had his brother turn up, sit down in their room, and explain everything to you for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just started on that fishing boat with the 2 guys, like there's these 2 fishermen on the fishing boat and they're like, oh, there's some weird shit.
It starts off in Mycroft's home, doesn't it?
Yeah, but this is like, it did all that as well, which was like, what the fuck? That was just messing with the audience for the sake of it. But if you just started on the fishing boat, and then Sherlock's just on the boat, it would have been like, what the hell is going on? They're going to this prison, and you're like, why is this happening? And it's far more intriguing straight away. You're already interested. But with that 20-minute intro, I already know, and I'm like, oh, get on with it. I know you're going to see your sister, and I know all about her because you've told me your entire life story.
And Suicide Squad made the same mistake.
Yeah. So you don't do it. Edit it. Cut it out. Intrigue your audience. Hold their attention by them going, what is happening? This is cool. You hold their attention because it's interesting to look at, and you hold their attention because they're not sure what's going on and they're invested. They want to know. If you just turn up if it just starts with the Waller turning up at that, the restaurant or whatever, and sitting down with these guys and going, right, we got this problem.
I mean,
a bunch of nutters.
Suicide Squad stands to me as another...
And it's like, that's interesting straight away, And it's like, I don't need to be told the same thing 20 times.
But Suicide Squad's another case of DC and their bad timing of releases and stuff. Having a film focusing on the villains is fine, but I feel you have to have introduced the villains first.
Potentially, yeah.
So there should have been...
It had so much to do. It had so much work to do in so little time.
Because it wasn't just...
Which is why it feels like a mess, because you're constantly hopping around, introducing new stuff and trying to fill in the blanks. It's like... Because you talked about it a minute ago when you said about establishing characters and stuff, and you can do... There's reasons that later films in series can do more interesting stuff. And also the idea of why people write fan fiction and stuff, and why... if you're going to write a story about... You had an idea for a scenario about Batman doing something. It's like, those things are easier to write because you've got the established catalogue of it. It's like, you can write an interesting story about Batman because you don't have to explain who he is. So you can focus on what he's doing and you can focus on the story. Whereas if you don't know, if you've never seen Batman, if he didn't exist, this was the first ever Batman comic, and he just like walks into a building and starts doing stuff, you're like, who the fuck is this guy? Why? What the hell?
I mean, that depends
and it's that idea that, like you're saying, you need to kind of establish some stuff before, because like you're saying, the second Batman movie in the last trilogy, everybody loves it. But he couldn't have made it as the first one.
No.
Because the first one has to tell you who Batman is and establish his world for anybody who's been dead for the last 30 years. To explain to you who he is and why. so that you can tell that story in the second one.
Well, they need to decide what they want to do. If they want to make a character-driven piece with fleshed-out characters, fine, but you need to do the introductions first. Yeah. You can make a film without introducing the characters, without giving a whole heap of backstory.
Yeah.
I mean, think of how many action films there are where you don't really know...
Loads of movies did it. Yeah. All the 80s movies did it, because they weren't designed to be three films in a row, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no number of those films are, interesting character pieces. But...
Suicide Squad would have worked if they didn't do a whole heap of backstory for each of the villains.
Yeah.
If they were just a bunch of rogues from a prison who were sent off on a mission. Right, we're giving you a mission because no one else will do it. Right, that's the premise.
It's the Dirty Dozen.
That's all the audience needs to know. Their quirks should come out over the course of the action, not through a bunch of convoluted flashbacks.
Do you know the Dirty Dozen?
What, the World War II thing? Yeah.
Where it's like a bunch of guys, they're all on death row in this prison. They're all like soldiers.
I've not seen it, but I know of it.
Yeah, they're all these soldiers that are on death row for terrible things. They've all done horrendous stuff like rape and murder and all this kind of stuff. And they just go... It is basically the Suicide Squad. They go, basically, we've got this mission that you need to do, and if you die on the mission... No big loss. And
they don't, at any point in that, do they delve into their intricate backstory for each of the characters?
Not in the same way, no. I mean, there's like allusions to stuff and references.
But that comes out over the course of the film.
You reveal their character through what they are and how they interact with other people. You don't have a 20-minute flashback.
And I mean, Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad's held together or led by Captain Exposition or whatever he was called, who basically explains... everything that happens.
Exposition is like the curse of modern cinema, isn't it? It really is. It's like, woo woo, all aboard the exposition train.
And here's a diagram to show exactly what's going on.
Let's stop the story a minute and explain to you how we got here using a map. It's like, fuck off, please.
It's terrible.
It's like watching a radio play. It's like, I don't need you to explain every goddamn thing that's happening. It's a visual medium. Just show me. I will understand I'm not a complete retard because I've been watching films for 36 years.
I mean, often all they have to do is give a little visual cue as to what someone's intent or feeling is, and the audience will work it out themselves. Or even better, make it better in their own heads.
Here's a key. Right, okay. Aliens. I always come back to it, but aliens.
Yeah.
Right? The sequence, Ripley and Newt are in... they get put in the medical bay and the facehuggers are running around.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get on the camera, and they're waving at the camera. And you don't really know you haven't thought about why the facehuggers have got out or anything yet. And it cuts to, like, the control room. And I think it pulls out of, like, the monitor where you can see
I know what you see, yeah.
Yeah. And you just see Burke kind of look around and he just flicks the switch off. And you know everything about him. You're like, fuck, that son of a bitch. And he doesn't need to explain anything. And
all the dots are then connected.
Yeah.
Oh, right, that's how they get out. Yeah. That's why. And that's the motivation.
And all of that stuff, yeah.
The only time anything gets spelt out is when Ripley is accusing him.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
But even then, they don't spend hours talking about it.
This jerk let them free.
Yeah, she just
and he's going to kill you
next. He thought he could get them through the quarantine if they were inside somebody. And he doesn't have to explain it because we all know how the facehuggers work. Everybody in that room knows how the facehuggers work. And we know that he's a money grabbing son of a bitch.
But if that film had been made today, they'd go on and on about all the quarantine regulations and how he would have got it past the quarantine.
And we'd have a big diagram of the facehugger done in 3D graphics.
Oh, God.
Pointing at it and explaining how it all works. And I'd just be like... blow my brains out now.
There's another reason why I like 80s films is because there's no fucking holograms. If I see another... something I loved about... little tangent. Yeah. Something I loved about fucking Rogue One. The fact there were no holograms. You had... what's his face?
Have they got the big pieces of glass, though, with, like, the circles and all that stuff?
Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen it yet.
Yes, they do have those. Basically, all the technology you saw in Star Wars is in Rogue One.
That's what I want.
But nothing more excessive than that.
Yeah, this is like Prometheus did it. Prometheus had all these super advanced like hologram displays. And
you sort of think,
but it's
where did they go?
Set 50 years before
where did they go?
It's like, come on a minute, what's happening? And that's another film that told you the story twice as well. Because you had the opening sequence where you saw you saw them discover the illustration on the wall in the cave.
Yeah.
That shows you, like, the gods pointing to the planets and everything.
And then she spells it out again in the presentation.
And then explains it all to the guys in the presentation. You're like, I know! I was there when you discovered it.
It could have just cut straight to the bit where they're landing on the planet.
Yeah, the whole thing could have just started with the ship and them waking up in stasis, same as the original.
Rather than then briefing the crew on top of it. Or better yet, they could have cut from the Discovery.
Yeah.
And then, if I'd been doing that, they could have said, right, that's the wall. And then that the visual of them looking at the wall would have panned out. And
and they're just doing it on a display.
Yeah, it would have suddenly been
so lovely. But it is like that,
Bad storytelling.
Bad storytelling, man.
And that's...
Just stop telling...
That's the plague of modern cinema. What was the phrase you told about 3D? 3D cinemas, what they were using.
Oh, yeah, 3D adds the depth that the script no longer has. Yeah, it wasn't mine. I wish it was. But
actually, whoever said it did a fucking good quote.
It's a little webisode on. I think it's something called Why Cinema Thinks You're Stupid, and it's absolutely brilliant. And there's stuff in it that I can't wash out of my brain. I think it's the number of explosions in a trailer. I think you divide you like times by minus 12 or something from it, and that's what they think your IQ is.
How many explosions were there in the Suicide Squad trailer? Let's count.
And the 1 second sex scene as well. That's another one. It's like in trailers, if they show you like a second of like, a couple like whoa, it's like it's so that it goes, look. You know there's sex in this movie. It's like, oh no. I can't watch trailers or anything anymore. So it's just this sort of voice in the back.
You just end up picking them apart.
Because it's so true as well. You watch it and you just go, yeah.
Well, everyone, when the Suicide Squad trailer dropped, the one with Queen playing in the background, everyone said, oh, this is amazing. This is going to be an awesome film. And I said, well, no, look at what's there. One, it's nothing but a hastily cut together bit of action scenes. Two, the only bit of dialogue said is dire. It's awful. And three, they've paid through the nose to use a piece of music which is high quality, everyone knows and loves, to add to a film which is lacking.
I still enjoyed it, because sometimes you just need to take your brain out and put it in a jar and watch something, and it's pretty.
And I know.
And that whole way of it's pretty.
I'm picking apart that trailer, but I love that trailer.
Yeah.
I really love that trailer. I wish the film had been as punchy as that trailer. I wish the film had the soundtrack that that trailer had.
Yeah, that's true. But it is that thing, isn't it? It's like the marketing people do it because it works.
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing. Even if you know it works, it worked.
I thought, I'll give it a shot, but after the failure...
So they're going, cool, look at that.
Yeah, but I've been stung too often now. Like I say, after the failings of Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad, I'm just not willing to spend time watching a DC
But I live with I'll forever live with my memories of The Mummy, and I try not to make those mistakes again. Of seeing the trailer for The Mummy and going, that looks like utter drag, and not seeing it. And then seeing it on video and going, that's one of the best films ever. And then The Mummy 2 coming out and going, I'm going to see that. Because The Mummy was amazing and it was shit. So I'm going to make that decision again. Just based on the trailer, I can't do it.
Well, I'm kind of glad that they do anniversary showings for certain things. Did you ever get to see Back to the Future on the big screen?
No, but I did see Labyrinth. That was amazing.
The big screen?
Yeah, I saw Labyrinth.
Yeah, when did they do that?
It was when Bowie died.
Oh, shit.
They screened it. That was amazing.
I didn't know they'd done that. But, when they did the whichever anniversary it was for Back to the Future a couple of years ago, they had that showing briefly at the Odeon over in Birmingham. And I just said, I got to go and see that.
Cinema by Us screened all three, I think.
But seeing the old Universal logo pop up on screen, I just oh, fuck, I'm in the 80s, this is awesome.
I know, I must admit, the opening to the new Ghostbusters has the the Columbia TriStar logo thing.
Is it the grainy old one?
No, but it's still the first time I've seen it in years, and I was like, oh man. I was like, I love that. You just want that.
That's something I love. Well, that's something I love about the Ghostbusters video game on 360. how they've got the actual Columbia logo that pops up, but it's all grainy, like it's on a film.
Yeah, I know. It's like they understand that it's kind of part of it. It's like the 20th Century Fox logo is
for Star Wars.
Is part of the Star Wars opening. Yeah, it's like you can't.
Did that weird you out when you saw Force Awakens? You thought, right, there's no 20th Century Fox logos.
Yeah, it did weird me out.
And then it just starts as a fanfare.
Because you need that.
And then
that like, second pause. Nerds, you fucking nerds! Oh my god!
Yeah, it's weird that Disney now owns everything.
The planet.
Yeah,
they're going to be. One day they're going to team up with Microsoft, and they will just become the company out of Alien. That'll be it. But it'll be shitter because it's the real world. So none of the computers will work very well, and everything will have Mickey Mouse on it.
I mean,
all the mugs on like their version of the Nostromo will be like princess mugs. It'll be like frozen head mugs or something.
But the Channel 5 did an 80s weekend over Christmas.
They didn't, the fuckers. Yeah, they did. I remember.
And they had Willow was showing.
Oh fuck me! I love that film so much.
I love that too. But it's now called Disney's Willow.
What? Wait, what?
No, seriously, when they were saying it, they had Disney's Willow.
No, it doesn't.
And I was thinking, what the fuck? And that's when I suddenly realised everything that was owned by Lucasfilm is now obviously owned by Disney. So every old Lucas movie is going to have Disney's written above it. So anything, aside from maybe Star Wars, but it won't be long until they'd have Disney's Star Wars. But yeah, that made me feel really quite sick when I saw that. I thought, oh fuck no, because they actually had it up on the screen. Up on the screen, they had the schedule of all the films they were showing. Yeah. And it had there, in bold text, Disney's Willow.
No way.
And I was like, no. Shit. No, it's... what? No.
Here's a pointless fact for you. This complete random tangent, but just because you reminded me with Willow. Do you know that Warwick Davis is the person who has the most Lego figures of himself?
Really? No.
Yeah. Because he's been in like loads of the Star Wars. He's played loads of characters in Star Wars, loads of characters in Harry Potter. So he's just got like millions of little Lego figures of him.
I was watching Doctor Who last night. He crops up in that.
Yeah.
He plays the Emperor of the Universe, basically.
Warwick Davis is bad.
He's awesome. I really wish they'd do a sequel to Willow.
I went to the Star Wars con last year. And he did a talk at the show and stuff, and he just came in on like a little Segway and just wove his way through the audience. He was like high-fiving people and stuff, and just like went on the Segway up to the stage and stuff, and then did the presentations. It was fucking so cool. I was like, "Oh, Warwick Davis!
Is he the only person
who's so awesome?"
Is he the only person whose life hasn't been destroyed by Star Wars?
Potentially, yeah. He's just so cool, so cool. And Willow is potentially one of my all-time favourite films.
It's an exquisite fantasy film.
Yeah,
they're rarely that good.
But the world it's in feels so dirty and real,
but they don't tell you anything about it. Is the thing? There's like not a huge amount of spiel at the start.
Castle that they go to that they have to fortify against like the enemy forces, and and it's all just been left and it's like ruined, and he finds that amazing gold armor that's just like lying there, all covered in cobwebs and stuff. And then when they magic that troll and it falls into the lake and turns into that fucking monster thing that's like shooting fire everywhere. It's so mental.
But they don't explain anything. It's like he put Matt Mardigan steps in some dung and just looks at it and says, "Oh fuck, trolls."
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
I hate trolls.
That's only up until that point. You've never seen a troll. Yeah, you don't know anything about trolls.
And the beauty of that is, you go, "What the hell does a troll look like? What is a troll?
And it's some sort of wall-crawling orangutan.
Yeah, it's absolutely nightmarish. It's like, oh my god, they don't want that to be a troll.
But they don't... everything's explained visually. You see...
Do you know why? Magic. And that's all it needs.
But even
magic.
Their version of magic's excellent in that. Because it hurts the person who's using it.
Yeah.
But they don't explain that. You just see it.
Yeah. They didn't give you like an hour-long explanation where they all sit round drinking mead and
they don't go into the intricate detail. Because if that had been made today, the character Willow would be lectured at some point.
Well, they tell you the whole plot at the opening and then force you to watch it. It's like, I know what's happening. You've told me already.
not to like Green Lantern levels where everything is sort of like spelled out over the course of half an hour or so.
DC are responsible for some of the worst films, aren't they? Jesus. God, Green Lantern. It's like a lesson in how not to make it.
Well, the only thing good that came out of Green Lantern was Deadpool.
You're going to give me a suit, don't make it green or animated. So good.
I haven't seen that in at least half an hour. I've got to watch it.
Oh, man. Oh, Willow. We should talk about fantasy films. We never talk about fantasy films.
That's because there's not actually that many good ones, to be honest, are there?
True.
There's Willow.
Legend. Legend's good.
I haven't seen Legend for ages.
Legend's good. Legend's weird.
I remember it being really trippy.
Yeah, it is. That's because of this got that crazy Tangerine Dream soundtrack as well. Which,
oh, did it? I fucking hate Tangerine Dream.
Oh,
it ruined. Have you seen The Keep?
No, they've not. No, don't tell me, because I've literally just bought it and I need to watch it. Don't spoil it.
It's a really good film.
Yeah.
But it's got Tangerine Dream.
Yeah, but I know it has, but that's why I bought it.
Oh, you synth-loving freak shit.
I happen to really like synth stuff. Because I found the soundtrack before I found the film, and I was like, this is awesome. What is this? And I feel like dig in and find it.
I feel like a bit of a hypocrite because I'm saying how much I love the 80s, and then I'm going on about saying how much I hate synth.
I know.
And the two kind of go hand in hand.
They kind of really do, yeah. So.
You can't have that sort of like glowy purple imagery without hearing a bit of synth in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because like none of the films had the budget for an orchestra. So,
so you had one guy with a Casio
keyboard. And that was it, yeah. Come on, Terminator. Like, you know.
Yeah, but when you think of
Brad Fiedel, it was one guy playing a Casio keyboard along to the film. It's virtually digital jazz.
Yeah, but okay, when you think of Terminator, what do you think of first? The synth stuff or da 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 da?
But it was synthesized, didn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't sound synth.
Yeah.
Sounds like someone.
That's the key.
It sounds like Terminator caving someone's head in, basically.
Yeah, but it's one of the reasons that I love the soundtrack to the original, is because it has that. Yeah.
Well,
it feels really industrial.
Yeah, admittedly, it only sounds like that briefly, and then it launches into the slightly more mournful side.
Yeah, but I mean, there's loads of that throughout the soundtrack, like loads of stuff where there's tracks on the soundtrack that I thought elements of it were sound effects in the film, but you don't realise till you listen to the soundtrack on its own they're actually part of the music.
Oh, right.
Like the car chase, you know, the bit where they're in the police car and they're like having that gun battle through LA and the cars are like slamming into each other and stuff. Loads of the stuff, like the sound effects of like the wheels and all that kind of stuff, is actually in the music, not in the... And it's like, that's amazing. He just put so much like texture into it that adds to the sound of the world. It's just amazing. It's one of the best soundtracks ever. God, Terminator's brilliant.
I haven't actually seen the first Terminator for donkey's age.
Yeah.
I always skip straight to Judgment Day.
You know, you said, it wasn't on record or anything, we were talking about characters that only ever walk anywhere.
Oh yeah, I was making a list of badasses who don't need to run.
Yeah. And we mentioned Terminator, obviously. But like, that's one of those things that annoyed me about the new one, was there's that bit where he fights the endoskeleton at the beginning, and it's like horrendously CGI. It's one of the only bits in the film that I really don't like. And he does this bit where he falls down into a pit or a lower level of the factory or wherever they are. And the endoskeleton does this like superhero jump down to kill him. It like leaps up to do like an elbow thing. You're like, no. I know you can do it in CG and stuff now, and you couldn't when it was a puppet. But it's like, what made the first movie so frightening was the fact that it had one knackered up leg, and it's just hobbling after them, and it's like it's terrifying because it's always just there. It's just walking.
I mean, I think you can lay the blame for stuff like that at the feet of 28 Days Later. Because as soon as they introduced zombies that could run, speed became what was threatening.
Yeah.
And admittedly, speed in certain circumstances is what's threatening, but if you can't just apply that to characters who, up until that point, were scary because they were relentless.
Yeah, and that's it. It's the idea that no matter what you do, it's always going to be there. Have you seen It Follows?
Yeah, I've got it. It's one of my. I really enjoyed that.
Holy shit! Yeah, the idea of that thing, it just walks.
Yeah,
it's like
it's always walking.
It's always walking while you're sleeping. It's walking.
Yeah,
it's like jeez,
it's slowly coming towards.
That's one of the only horror films in the last few years that's really stayed with me and really got under my skin.
I tried to get some other people to watch that recently, and they weren't impressed by it.
Are you kidding? It was so frightening.
Maybe I built it up, but I said, right, It Follows is one of the scariest things I've seen in ages.
Yeah, there is that danger that you build this stuff up.
And we were all watching it, we sat through it, and then all of a sudden the credits started to roll, and everyone at once turned to look at me angrily, sort of saying, really? That's it.
That was it.
I thought, you didn't get it?
It was really scary, really got under my skin. I remember... I think I had a flat tyre or something around the time, like about a week or so after watching it, and I remember sitting in my car in the car park. And the car park was just empty, and it was getting dark, and I'm waiting for like the repair truck to turn up or whatever. And I remember thinking, God, if I see someone just walking towards me now across this car park, I'm fucking gone. Like,
I don't care if I got a flat tyre.
Just walking towards it, I was like, oh God, And it just gets into the back of your head. It was really creepy,
something that's
really
relentless.
creepy.
But in order for something to be depicted as relentless, it doesn't need to run.
No.
It needs to just casually stroll towards you. You can fire bullets, as many bullets as you want at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
That's what made the Terminator scary.
Yeah, which, Kyle Reese tells you. It's like, it won't sleep, it doesn't eat, it's just always coming after you. And it's like, yeah, that's really scary. Because, we need to sleep and eat and take a dump and stuff, and all that time it's getting closer. It's like, oh, that's really horrible.